President Buhari to attend a 3-day Russia-Africa summit in Sochi, Russia.
Communications Minister orders suspension of planned surcharge on bank transactions by mobile network service providers.
No going back on planned reforms for broadcast industry, says Minister of Information.
This is not a move to stifle free speech or give anyone or purveyors of fake news and hate speech should not expect to sleep easy.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss nation building and Nigeria's political class, plus sustainable management of the Niger Delta environment.
Countries of the world have national goals and objectives aimed at uniting citizens and giving them a sense of belonging and equal stake, supporting them to achieve their potential and realize individual or group aspirations.
That's right, Kirian. Now, it is in the efforts towards realizing these goals and objectives that usually are referred to as nation building or state building, depending on one's school of thought. Now, but one thing that stands out is the fact that it is the citizens of a country that work to achieve the aims of coming together as a nation.
Yes, indeed, Kingsley. And achieving nation building is a social process that is seen to be evolutionary rather than revolutionary, and of course takes a long time. I would also like to add that there could be a revolutionary, process in trying to achieve the set objective.
Well, that's right, but mostly it is evolutionary. That's the point you made earlier.
Yes,
it's a revolution can come to hasten the process of nation building. But even after the upheaval of a revolution, you still need some time to get the various parts of society together and ensure that all together continue to form a whole. Now, although the approaches may vary, the popular and acceptable way of nation building is often by using the power of state, which is domiciled in the people who choose their leaders and systems of governance.
And that's correct. Nation building is expected to be driven by the political class, who seek mandates from citizens and hold in trust the nation's resources, which are expected to harness for the good of all. They are also expected to formulate policies and carefully implement them to meet the yearnings and aspirations of the citizenry.
Well, Nigeria, like some other developing countries, especially on the African continent, is just beginning to make advances in terms of stable democratic governance with 20 years of uninterrupted civil rule so far. And the political class will argue that it is still a small time in the life of a nation to meet mounting expectations.
That notwithstanding, Kingsley, 20 years is time long enough to assess the political class in building Nigeria as a nation. Besides the first, second, and third republics that were short-lived, the present dispensation have had enough time, some could say, because 1990 date could be considered an ample time for Nigeria to begin to feel the impact of democracy.
Well, no doubt about that, but I'm going to hold brief for the political class, or indeed any other class for that matter. We have already assembled a number of guests who will, of course, give us their insights into what they think the contributions of the political class has been to nation building.
And while it is not the sole responsibility of the political class to build the nation, it is believed that they hold the keys to unlocking doors that will lead Nigeria to the path of growth and development.
All right, so one question to ask is, what has Nigeria's political class done to facilitate nation building? What more should they do? In particular, have they been living up to expectations? And is it also necessarily the case that they are being accused unfairly in terms of the assessment of their contribution to nation building? What role is expected of other citizens?
Answers to all these and more will be discussed on Good Morning Nigeria this Monday, the 21st day of October 2019. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And Kirian, we also have a second conversation which will be on the sustainable management of the Niger Delta environment. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to welcome you to the program broadcasts on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are live here at the Abuja headquarters studios. As usual, we have the complimentary segments. These include newspaper review, business, and others. Let's join our colleague Nolin Abel Ahmed for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Nolin.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kieran. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari will depart Abuja Monday to participate in a 3-day Russia-Africa summit in Sochi, Russia from October 23 to 25 with a focus on exploring and expanding opportunities in security, trade and investment, science and technology, and gas production. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, the President during the summit will meet with President Vladimir Putin of Russia to further strengthen relations in security, trade and investment, and build partnership that will enhance Nigeria's huge gas potential following Russia's remarkable success in gas exportation. The summit is expected to bring fresh perspectives on some global issues and challenges, including nuclear technology, energy development, and agriculture infrastructure and development strategies. An African Business Forum, which will bring together African and Russian business leaders, will be held during the event to enhance Russian investments in Africa and promote African business interests in the host country. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has assured that no amount of attacks sponsored or otherwise will stop the implementation of the approved presidential recommendations to inject sanity into the nation's broadcast industry. The minister made this reassurance in Lagos at an interactive session with members of online publishers.
We kick against measures aimed at putting an end to fake news and hate speech, especially in the broadcast industry. Only those who are guilty should be afraid of the efforts to sanitize the broadcast industry. Responsible broadcasters have nothing to fear. This is not a move to stifle free speech or gag anyone, but purveyors of fake news and hate speech should not expect to sleep easy.
The attention of the Federal Ministry of Communications has been drawn to the viral text message allegedly sent by the mobile network operator MTN Nigeria and other mobile operators notifying subscribers of a 4 naira charge per 20 seconds on USSD access to banking services from the 21st of October 2019. A release from the Office of the Minister of Communications says the minister is unaware of this development and has directed the sector regulator, the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), to ensure that the operator suspends such plans until the minister is fully and properly briefed. Meanwhile, Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, says the Apex Bank is not part of the proposed charges imposed by telecom company in Nigeria on USSD transactions in banks. He was speaking while briefing journalists on outcome of the IMF World Bank meetings in Washington.
4 months ago, I held a meeting with some telecom companies as well as leading banks in Nigeria as central bank figures. And the issue of the cost of USSD came up. I think I understand, not actually 4 naira, yes, 1,500 naira per minute. I appeal to them that they should please indeed review this downwards. And they refused. I understand almost about 3-4 weeks ago, rather than even reducing, they went ahead and increased it from 1,500 to 4,500, 300%. I opposed it.
And now to security. Troops of one division have rescued 4 kidnapped students from bandits at Gurmi village in Chun local government area of Kaduna State. A statement by the Nigerian Army Operations Media Coordinator, Colonel Aminu Iliasu, also indicates that 7 Boko Haram members trying to escape troops' onslaught were killed when their vehicle stepped on an improvised explosive device, IED, in Lamba, a forest in Borno State. The IED was laid by the terrorists. Similarly, troops in River State raided a suspected sea pirates camp at Tingibidi, Ogubolo local government area and recovered one AK-47 rifle and 3 para-red rockets. The federal government has pledged its full support for the successful hosting of the 2019 All Africa Music Awards (AFRIMA) as the country prepares to host the glamorous event in Lagos come November with the theme Feel Africa. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed made the pledge in a statement signed by his special assistant Segun Adeyemi in Lagos. The minister said AFRIMA is one of the biggest awards for the music industry in Africa, and what government has done in the past is to provide the enabling environment for the awards to take place by providing support services and backing. It's on record that the AFRIMA editions that have been hosted by Nigeria are among the successful ones. That's the early morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Kingsley after this break. Thank you for watching.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on the trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Expository interviews with stars of the team within our place. Becky Madajemo of NTA, Utibe Umore of AIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also feature Iya Modina. A TV drama series on NTA. Let's get to meet the characters behind Iya Modina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you or the NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down.
Do you have a job where you're going to? No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Alinko. Getting out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
Why you want to carry wahala for your head? Don't be only you get matter for your mind. No. Forget your worries, don't condemn yourself. My brother, free your mind. Enjoyment, don't be crying. Trust the little, live your life and be free.
Free your mind with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. 7 naira fee on the first call of the day applies. Dial *315# to join.
Trust the lead to live your life, free your mind.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
In Nigeria, the
there is one sound we need to silence. So let's silence toothache before it starts with Oral-B All-Round Protection. Its advanced technology helps prevent both tooth holes and gum problems that can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your teeth, giving them all-round protection. Because the only sound we really want to hear is that of our future. For healthier, stronger teeth in 1 week.
An award that has succeeded to pool a galaxy of stars from the north, south, east to the west, and central Africa, and also those that are domiciled beyond the shores of Africa under one roof.
Was made in Africa with the birth of the first television station, WNTV, in Ibadan, Nigeria, on October 31, 1959.
I have great pleasure in formally launching Western Nigeria Television, first in Africa.
Television in Africa clocked 60 this year. It's time to celebrate this remarkable achievement. Various activities are lined up: photo exhibition, a colloquium, public presentation of broadcasting books, and a gala night. Be part of these events, powered by Foundation for Ibadan Television Anniversary Celebrations, FITAC,
and supported by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Well, you are watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, says it is working on a framework to regulate the use of crowdfunding by small businesses to raise capital. More details of this on Business News with Abdul Karim Zurmi.
On the sidelines of the ongoing annual meetings of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C., Acting Director General of the SEC, Ms. Mary Udok, says the move is aimed at protecting investors in the capital market. On the back of MTN Nigeria and Airtel's listings, Udok said it would be a great thing for more companies in the oil and gas sector to list on the stock exchange.
NNPC as a global company cannot list. It has to be the companies under NNPC that can list. And before that happens, those companies have to be restructured to meet the requirements, the listing requirements of the capital market, and also the acceptability of investors. They can't just come like that. And therefore, and I also want to say that in other jurisdictions, you have companies, that is government companies like NNPC, listed in the capital market of those jurisdictions.
Udok assured that the Commission would continue to seek new ways to expand the market and release instruments that would make investments easier. And next, we take a look at the Nigerian Stock Exchange for the week ended on Friday, 18th October 2019. With Business News, Abdul Karim Zurmi.
Many thanks, Abdul Karim, for the business package. Next for us, newspaper review.
Well, let's welcome Bayo Tayabi, our newspaper reviewer. Very good morning. I'm glad to have you.
Good to see you, Kirian. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning,
Very
Nigeria.
restful weekend.
Very restful.
That's right.
All right, let's begin with the Daily Sun newspaper. On the right-hand side of the nameplate, we have outreach over plan to hike USSD charges. With the rider, federal government orders immediate suspension. It's on page 2. And now below that, we have the lead story. CBN stress test fallout. Banks in secret major talks. That's the lead story on the Daily Sun newspaper. Banks in secret major talks, with 2 riders to that. Fear grips depositors. No cause for alarm. There's assurances from the MFLA, the Governor of Central Bank, and of course the NDIC. The full details can be found on page 6 of Daily Sun newspaper. There are other stories just by the side of the photo story here. Electricity. World Bank approves $3 billion loan for Nigeria. It's on pages 2 and 7. Federal government earmarks $1.61 billion for 24-hour power supply. Police rescue abducted ACP, arrest 2 suspects. It's on page 4. 3-term, how Bush, Mandela, Mbeki, others helped thwart Obasanjo's plans. That's according to Carlo. It's on page 6. It says Mantu worked with forces against ex-president. Well, that's all for the list.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. Punch newspaper, above the nameplate, the story that Kirian read earlier from the Sun is also the World Bank approves Nigeria's $3 billion power sector loan. That's on page 24. CBN opposes MTN over mobile banking transaction access. Buhari must stop lawlessness in Kogi. That's according to Achuba. Details on page 12. Terrorists smuggling fish into Nigeria. That's attributed to the army. That's on page 8. Now, 2 earpieces there. Economists and farmers disagree on border closure benefits and losses. Rice farmers promise price crash and record bumper harvests. Recover $103 billion from OICs, there should be IOCs rather. Banks, Falono tells Senate. IOCs will stand for International Oil Corporations. Lead story says with a kicker, minimum wage. NLC state chairman meet Tuesday and talks with governors begin. We won't accept lower adjustments. That's according to the state chapters of the NLC. Details you will find on page 2, and there are a number of subtitles to that headline on page 2. Zulum drags officials to Boko Haram enclave for retreat. Zulum is the governor of Borno State, so he's dragged officials to Boko Haram enclave for retreat. That's on page 11. Police special forces deployed to rescue abducted commander. Details on pages 45. Kebbi border points created to raise revenue. That's according to the CG, and disaster there, and I think in Lagos, Ondo, Plateau, and Abia crashes.
Well, let's start with the news about power. The federal government has secured about $3 billion loan to reinvigorate power, and the Minister of Finance clarified that it is to be taken in tranches of $750 million, and it is specifically to be directed towards invigorating power. And a corollary to that is that another sum of money is the federal government is to set aside $1.61 million to ensure constant power supply 24 hours. The managing director of Transmission Company of Nigeria, Alhaji Usman Guru, says that it will be carried out under the Transmission Rehabilitation Expansion Program for expansion for a purpose of 20,000 megawatts by the year 2022. And it is to be done across Nigeria. There's, however, a challenge there. A challenge is that while the project is to cost about 1.61 billion, there is need to pay compensation costing about 32 billion naira for persons who have land, houses, farms that are to be affected by way of right of way. Kingsley read the story about minimum wage that the NLC is set to negotiate with states. However, following the agreement on the consequential adjustment, the Minister of Labour has said that it takes immediate effect, and this affects consolidated public service salary, as well as CONHES, that is consolidated health services, as well as CONRISE, that is research institutions, as well as CONTIS, consolidated tertiary institution salary structure. But the one that is of immediate concern is COMPIS, consolidated salary for public service. And as you know, the aggregation of the percentages for level 1 to level 6 is about 66%, and those on level 1 are going to have an 11,000 increment, level 2 12,000, level 3 12,000, level 4 12,000, level 5 14, and level 6 17. Those on level 7, 8, and 9 are to have a varied ranges of increment, 23.2% for level 7, and they will have a margin of about 10,000 naira increase. Level 8 is 16%, which is 11,000. Level 9 is 19%, 12,000. Those on level 10 14 have a marginal increase of 16% each. And level 2 will have an increase of about 12,000. Level 12, 13. Level 13, 15,000. Level 14, about 17,000. And level 15 to 17 have a margin of 14%. Those on level 15 will have an addition of about 20,000. Those on level 16, about 25, and those on level 17, about 48. It has to be emphasized that this is just wage adjustment. It is not wage increase, and it is not salary adjustment. Minister of Labour and Employment says general wage review is coming subsequently later in the year, and it will also come along with harmonization of salary. Like Kingsley has always said, this is not another Udoji. So traders in the market, don't begin to hike your prices in the expectation that workers have got new salary. No, it is just adjusting the wage schedule, which has been due since 5 years ago.
Are you saying that with guarantee that the traders will not also want to have a part of the goodies, if you ask me, because they're also part of the society. I'm not saying that they should do that, but it's more of economics now.
Yes.
And those of them who are not part of government agencies or who don't work in state ministries will also like to have a share of what is going on. But what you would say that many of them will even listen to is that they should not skyrocket the prices of certain commodities.
Clarification has to be made. This is not a wage review. This is just adjustment. And the highest is getting 48,000. The least is getting only about 12,000 increase monthly. So it is not as if another Udoji has been foisted on the nation, and so traders must also get their own. No.
The corollary to all of this, while you are adjusting, it's a different but related subject matter. Productivity.
Yes.
We keep talking about increasing salaries or adjusting salaries, but whatever nomenclature you choose to use. How many civil servants or public servants put in 8 hours of work diligently, Monday to Friday?
That is critical, and most often it has featured between negotiations between labor and employers. The labor has also harped on the fact that if we go to demand increase welfare, it must be justified by increased productivity. That is very important.
Actually, people may not justify the fact that, as Kingsley said, that people don't put in 8 hours diligently. But over the years, Nigerian workers have never had a living wage, and people go extra mile to see how they take care of their families. They have children, they go to school, right? And again, when you make a comparison with those governors, for instance, the senators, National Assembly members, House of Assembly members, and what they take home, we also go to the same market. So the worker begin to think that, look, I am short-changing all of this. I'm not saying, look, that the workers are exactly, but it's a
vicious circle.
It's a ripple effect, it's a vicious cycle, and people affect that we go to the same market on a daily basis. So that is why workers will say, look, it's our turn to get something, from the coffers of government.
And then if you work in the private sector, you go and tell your employer that
he's not paying me a living wage.
No. Your employer will pay you, but you will tell him that because you need to moonlight so as to supplement your income, you won't put in the requisite power. You'll be on the street
the next day.
If people
The latest is Governor Nasir El-Rufai has also led security agencies to open up another rehabilitation center. This time it is called NIGA, and they found 147 emails comprising 125 males, 22 females. 4 of them are foreigners from Cameroon and Niger. The Commissioner for Human Services and Social Development of Kaduna State, Hajia Baba, Afsar Baba, briefed and said that some of them have been in chain for 8 years. They are now making initiatives to link them up with members of their family. You recall that penultimate week, a similar thing was discovered in Daura, and subsequently another part of Katsina State, bringing 4 now such rehabilitation centers.
All right, Bayo, we have 2 loaded topics for conversation.
I see.
There are a number of topics that we are able to take. I'm sure that in the course of the week we'll return to them. The one, CBN opposing MTN and other telecom operators in charging for USSD for banking operations. Then also the ACP, that's Assistant Commissioner of Police, who was kidnapped in Kaduna. Whether his name is Issa Rambo or Issa Rabo, it's not quite clear, but there are reports that he's been rescued. Plus other stories that we'll have time to look at beginning tomorrow. Plus the impeachment also in Kogi of the Deputy Governor, and whether, of course, will stand. Bayo, on that note, we'd like to thank you for being around. See you tomorrow.
Thank you too.
Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our items for discussion.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above and the waters below. In the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, we support our armed forces.
What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
The NTA and the Village Headmaster family are pleased to announce the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the award-winning Village Headmaster television series. Monday, 28 October 2019, command performances of the Village Headmaster at the Terraculture Arena, Victoria Island, Lagos. Red carpet, 5 p.m. and live performance, 6 p.m. Tuesday, 29th October 2019 at 10 a.m. Roundtable discussion at Freedom Park, Broad Street, Lagos. Theme: Drama, a tool for national development. Join the NTA and the Village Headmaster family as we celebrate this Golden Jubilee. Attendance at both events is strictly by invitation. Announcer, Organizing Committee.
I want to introduce to you what they call the Ratus Okokopolos, aka Bushra, aka Dewi, aka Uchi. This is the time of the year when they mate, and these things are done, every time you see Eratus or Kokopoulos, there must be a serpentis around trying to, chopulate it. And when they chopulate it, it will...
Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Thanks for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria for this Monday. Our first conversation focuses on nation building and Nigeria's political class. Let's now join Aisha Ubali for a background report.
Nation building will continue to be a topic of discussion while the political class have been identified as critical, having a crucial role to play in galvanizing all the processes to achieve all-round development. Advancing national development requires the contribution of all key players to come up with initiatives for growth and stability of the country. Some analysts believe the Nigerian political class needs to do more to meet the expectations of Nigerians in conduct and action. Some other observers say for the fact that Nigeria has enjoyed stable democratic governance in the last 20 years is commendable, but efforts must be made to grow democratic institutions through the robust contribution and commitment of politicians. Analysts have also identified some unpatriotic tendencies of the political class, such as vote buying and thuggery during electioneering. Godfatherism is also considered a trend that could affect service delivery by leaders at various levels. How can members of the political class maximize the opportunity given to them by Nigerians? What strategies should politicians adopt in order to achieve desired results in the polity? These questions and more will engage guests on the program shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha Ubali, for that background. Now we have three guests with us here in the studios to discuss this issue in further detail. First, let's welcome distinguished Senator Abubakar Yusuf. Abubakar Yusuf represents Taraba Central Senatorial District in the Nigerian Senate. Pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm pleased to be here.
All right. Also here with us in the studios, would like to welcome guest on Good Morning Nigeria. We haven't had him for a while now. Professor Sam Ego is a political scientist. It's on some national assignment in the meantime. Professor?
Thank you, my brother.
Okay. Also here with us, we have Honorable Abdullahi Adamu Candido. He's Executive Chairman, Abuja Municipal Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory. Honorable Candido, pleasure to have you too.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. Let's begin with Professor Sam Egu. Let's get your own perspective of nation building, because it may mean different things to different people. What do you understand about nation building?
Yeah. I think the way it is couched, nation building is a deliberate project of creating one single national identity out of several nationalities or out of several ethnicities. And the notion of nation building, if you check the literature in political science, is it's an idea that has been developed in the context of countries largely that were previously colonized, and in which the colonial project brought under one political territory different groups of people who had nothing to do with themselves or who had weak ties among themselves. And in the post-colonial period, the major task is how to weld the several identities into one national identity. And because it is a project, it is a conscious activity by those in power to create that single framework of a common citizenship. That is why in many African countries, including Nigeria, nation building is linked to the whole idea of the national question. And central to the idea is the question of how do you ensure that different primordial loyalties, different subnational identities transfer their loyalty to the ecumenical level of the state. And the idea of nation building does not suggest that different ethnic identities should disappear. It is a recognition that people want to be one and yet retain their separate identity. And that is why countries that want to give expression to several identities often find in federalism a constitutional formula of accommodation. And that is why federalism itself is understood by the simple oxymoron of unity in diversity, or what some people in the literature again will call shared rule and home rule. In other words, to promote national identity in the context of multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multi-regional existence, you create a framework that gives every ethnic, every component a sense of independence, a sense of identity, and yet they subscribe to one common national goals and values. So it depends upon what is the architecture of building that nation. If, for example, and we are coming to that, politicians choose to politicize this identity, they then subvert the objective of national unity and integration. And in many countries, what people have done is to say, fine, retain your separate identities, but create those values around which everybody will rally around and unite. And more often than not, they are values of good governance. They are values of patriotism. They are values of merit. Because it is possible to keep your identity and at the same time have national unity. And that is why many successful countries in the world are multi-ethnic. And multi-ethnic identity is actually a beauty if it is well cultivated, if it is well harnessed. So the problem we have in many African countries, including Nigeria, is the failure to create those values around which every ethnicity, every regional group will rally around and unite.
All right. Professor Sambego, thank you very much there for your opening salvo. Points noted. Senator Abubakar Yusuf, let's get your own take. I know Professor Sambego has said, I mean, in its classification in terms of origin, says, look, this is a post-colonial idea that is being driven. But some historians will also say, okay, go to Italy, go to Germany, and even go to the United States, you see, or Switzerland or elsewhere, where various nationalities or ethnicities have been welded together to form nations that we see today. But what's your take on nation building?
Well, thank you very much. He has expounded very, very well theoretically. These things, vary from one state to the other. For Nigeria, he captured the word manipulation of those, characteristics that will be, that will be used, for nation building. Of course, we are multi-religious, and many of us cannot forget to be, the religion they follow. I will not forget, the ethnic group I come from. I will not also forget the community where I come from. But the fundamental issue is that not forgetting that does not mean that, I will not be loyal to the, the national identity. The national ethos that we are talking about must be imbibed, but, the historical Nigeria, up till today is that we have somehow found ourselves where the politicians, even during the military, they manipulate the religion, manipulate ethnicity for their own selfish ends. Where this thing, came from, a professor, should be able, to do their own research and tell us where we have gotten wrong in our own process of nation building. But he has captured it very, very well. But I think in practice, we need to find out why are we self-centered, as political, leaders of this country.
Well, it's good. is coming from you with a political background. And now let's talk to Honorable Adamu Candido. Honorable, considering Nigeria as a country with a checkered political history, as Prof rightly pointed out, we are multi-ethnic, we are multi-religious, we have over 250 languages and cultures. What is your understanding about nation building, and relate that to the nation called Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think I would deviate from the academic positions of the prof here. Let me just, as a layman and speaking directly to several Nigerians who may likely not understand it from the aspect of academics. Nigeria as a nation is 59 today. And as people, we're diverse. Now, do we see ourselves as one? Do we still see ourselves as coming from what we used to be before we became independent? These are things that I think should form the context of even a nation and its building. For one, after the independence, okay, before the independence, there used to be leaders. How did they perceive the country to be? Now, when they exited, okay, how do we now as leaders see ourselves and see our nation? This is the area, or this is an area that all of us should concentrate more in trying to define this country called Nigeria, and how do we ensure its success and growth as a nation first, because we are talking of nation building. And if you are talking of nation building, you are thinking of how do we even ensure the country grow from one stage to another. Now, as Nigerians, I can actually believe that, yes, we pretend a lot. We pretend a lot. We don't see the country as truly what belongs to us. We divide the country from the, from where we come from. We reduce it to, for instance, I'm from the north. What the northerners see in Nigeria is only seen from the perspective of being a northerner. But we have people from other sides of the, of the country. And what we are postulating should be that how do we really see this country as truly one, okay, devoid of where I come from? Then how do we put in, what do we do to ensure that, we ensure its growth and development? Unless we see this country as truly one, right, we may not be able to ensure its, true development in the true perspective of nation building. So for me, actually, I think the leadership is the bane of our problem. Nation still called Nigeria is still in Nigeria, but the leaders changing from time to time, and there is no patriotism. There is no enough patriotism that we can call truly patriotism that wishes to see this country moving forward. For instance, we read from history, Nigerians who administered this country after the colonial administration were said to have even died, okay, without a single home. We were told that this is how their account, what they left in their account. But on daily basis, you dare not live in this country without mentioning Sir Tafawa Balewa, without mentioning Nnamdi Azikiwe, Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello and Co. Every day you must mention these names. But what did they live in this country? Did they live anything? Nothing. But they sacrificed their time. Now, when they exited, the one that we have now, what do you call them? We are only coming after them. What do you call these leaders today? The present crop of leaders we have as a Mr. President leading this country, for instance, sincerely for me, I felt he's not giving this, he doesn't have the real team that will really truly, put it on ground what he's manifesting for this country. He has a lot of them for us to check out from, corruption, corrupt tendencies and what have you. But those around him, do they share the same sentiment with him? Do they share the same passion with him? This is the kind of thing. So we are thinking of leaders. And if you are thinking of a nation, you must first and foremost think of the leaders first, because patriotism is the main issue that we must all focus if only want to truly see our Nigeria moving.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Adamu Candido. Now, let's bring in another guest who's just joined us. Is a member of the House of Representatives representing Aba North and Aba South Federal Constituency, Honorable Ossi Chinedu Prestige. Pleasure to have you with us on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Just while we're still dealing with the conceptual issue of nation building, let's have your take on this. What is nation building?
Thank you very much. I apologize for coming late. This is Monday morning in Abuja.
Just fire on.
Yeah, so nation building to me, I would say that some of the people who has contributed have really made some inroad in that. But I believe that nation building is all about the leaders coming together to have and postulate economic policies that will drive the nation forward. And if that is anything to go by, I just want to share from the last speaker's ideas and postulation that we have really not done well in nation building. The forefathers or post-colonial leaders did so much for us, and then I think we left it from there. The country called Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned now, is just in the name. If it is about a nation, I do not see us as a nation, because nobody talks, the average Nigerian talks about where you come from, which state, which region, and if you come to the state, you still divide yourself further from which particular local government. From the local government, you also keep dividing from which particular community in that local government. So as far as I'm concerned, we are not building a nation. What we are doing today is building our localities, because there is no nation in the world that has developed without having that patriotic zeal from their leaders to develop their countries. I see Nigeria, I see our leaders as those who have parochial interests. Most of our leaders are interested in what gets into their pockets, what gets, in fact, they use the name of their area, maybe I'm from the north, I'm from the south, in order to, get some level of sympathy from these people. And at the end of the day, they end up, enriching themselves and their families. I do not see Nigeria today as a nation that is truly a nation. We are no leaders that truly have the interests of the people. That most of us are just selfish. So for me, I think that this country needs, to have leaders who truly have that patriotic zeal to develop their areas. You look at the Asian tigers, you look at the Americans, look at the Europeans. There are no nations without leaders who do not have anything at the end of the day. I was listening to one issue the other day where one of the former governors in the southeast left even without a home. In fact, Sam Bakwe, for instance, left without a home. There was nothing left in his account. He died as a poor governor. And at the end of the day, you will still see people today who are governors, who are former governors, having billions and billions of naira and having businesses all over the world. But we still talk about Nigeria owing, Nigeria not having money. If you look at our budget now, you talk about deficits and all that. Whereas the individuals made, in fact, here in this country are richer than the country. So I think our nation is really going down daily basis. And until we realize this and have leaders that have the interest of the people at heart, I think that this country will still go back down the drain.
Very, very interesting. And this is coming from politicians, Kinsley, who are part of the leadership that we're talking about. And in the course of this conversation, we might get to a point where you now profess solutions to what can be done to correct the anomaly. Now, let's return to Prof, who gave us what Candido described as the academic aspect of understanding of nation building. I can assure you that academic can be translated into reality. Exactly. And that's why I'm going back to Prof. Now, Prof, you posited that nation building as a deliberate project by people previously colonized and are now looking for a constitutional formula of accommodation. Now, these leaders that are here with us this morning, they have said something very, very important. There's no patriotic zeal. Could you please let us know what can be done by leaders to begin to impact positively on nation building?
Yeah. I think there's a major issue. Almost everybody here has spoken about that. and that is the fact that people get into power and then they spend all their time accumulating resources for themselves and members of their family. That is what is very generic to Africa. That is the major problem of building a modern society. And I think the problem is a bit historical. Unlike their counterparts in Europe and North America, the African political class, the African ruling elite, has to use political power in order to grab economic power. That is the historical trajectory of Africa. And that is the source of the crisis. Because once you get into power, it is to use the state as a means of accumulating wealth. And that's why some of our best minds who spoke on this actually said that in Africa, the state operates like an industry. But in Europe and North America, the ruling elites, first of all, acquired economic power. That's right. And they used that economic power in order to acquire political power for the benefit of society, for the benefit of reordering society, to promote good governance and create those values, around which people will enjoy democracy, liberty, freedom. But we are in a historical situation where we moved in an opposite direction. So what is important, therefore, is to create disincentive for power in Africa. That is the only way you can free African society. When you create disincentive, people don't get into power because of the benefits they are going to derive, but because of the service, then you are going to change the narrative. And that means that you need to punish infractions committed by those in power on account of using the states in order to further their interests. If you don't create those structures and mechanisms of fighting corruption, of subjecting leaders to be accountable to citizens, then you're going to encourage the kind of arbitrariness, the kind of impunity. So what we're actually describing is the tendency for individual interest to replace that of society. And that is how the national will, the national interest is subverted. And I think that link is very important.
Well, Professor Sam Egwu, thanks a lot for your explanation. Just before the other guests come in, what you have just described has also sometimes been referred to in another perspective as the so-called Kabiyesi syndrome. This is not intended to tarnish the reputation of any particular ethnic group in the country. The Kabiyesi syndrome, that yes, the political class uses the state to further its own interests on the African continent, but that there is also a monarchical historical background to this, which is referred to as the Kabiyesi syndrome. So any person who occupies a position of office or authority is seen as a lord, over subjects. So how then, following from what you have said, can we break out of this Kabiyesi mode or the appropriation of the state to the personal commonwealth for the individual, rather than ensuring that it is nation building that is the primary goal and objective?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the problem. You see, those who talk about the Kabiyesi syndrome are those who are finding justification for the behavior of our leaders. It's a narrative that is meant to justify why African leaders behave the way they do. Remember, in many African countries, there was a time that we deliberately abrogated democracy. All the multi-party arrangements we have, we removed them. And then what was the justification? Africans before colonial rule were not used to democratic systems. All these institutions are alien, and therefore we don't need them. We are in a hurry. These are ideological justifications for perversion of public power. So what people are describing, is actually a subversion of modern ethos and values, by simply saying it's a reenactment of the past. It's a kind of social atavism. I think it's more than that. It is that you have a modern society, a leader has been elected on democratic principle, he swore to a constitution, and then you will then go back to say, this is the way we used to be in the past. No, you're actually subverting the will of the people. It's a framework for a modern society. So that description of the tendency we are describing is actually a subversion of the national political objective. And we must deconstruct those notions.
Okay, thank you. I haven't read some texts, from past leaders, especially colonial masters. They made some comments about Africans, and what Prof described as things that are generic to an African man. He's always a lord, and he lords over everyone. That's the KBSC syndrome that Kingsley just brought in. But of course, Prof has already dealt with that because we've all been to school. We are talking about modern way of administering the people and taking care of society. But I want to ask this question to Candido. We have some structures in this country. Talk about Ohanes Ndibu, the OPCs, we have Arewa Consultative Forum, we have Niger Delta Consultative Forum. See, these are some of the structures people believe also aiding and abetting, what we are, looking at as a non-patriotic nature of Nigerians in trying to see how we can build a nation where we have multi-ethnic people, multi-religious people, people with diverse, culture and languages. Now, what's your take on it? Because these are even regarded as cultural associations, but during politics, they make their position known publicly. So what's your take?
Thank you once again. I think those institutions are just unnecessary. I come from the north. When you see the Arewa, whatever you call them, speaking, certainly it is not nationalistic. If the Afenifere or the Southeastern Forum, the Ohanese, once they are speaking, pretend to be speaking for this nation, whereas they are speaking for a certain interest. And therefore, unnecessarily, these institutions are not even supposed to be, so long as we still see ourselves as Nigeria. And if we truly are a nation, those institutions are just unnecessary. So that when I'm speaking for the North, the Northerner is a Nigerian. If I'm going to talk about a nation, I should be able to come from the North and speak good and protect the interests of somebody from the Southeast, because I still see him as part of me. So long as we still see ourselves from this divide, sincerely, the nation we are thinking of putting in place as a country is still far from there. Let me come from this position of the former governor of Imo State, who was of the view 2 weeks ago to say, oh, the size of the Senate is too large, the size of the House of Reps is too large. They are not even too large. They can even add more. What is important is just to cut the size of what we call salary allowance. The two distinguished gentlemen are here. I'm also here. I was elected. Okay, I must have one salary or the other and an allowance to a reasonable amount, so that you can accommodate as many as possible to participate in the nation building. It is not the number of people that are actually, serving, because you need people to participate so that you can add value, because your head and the other head may give a better solution to issues. But you cut this so that you make the office unattractive. Okay, for instance, I don't know what a senator takes a month. I don't know what a member of House of Reps take in a month, but I take about at least 217,000 naira. I appoint supervisory councillors as my aides with special advisors. Certainly, every supervisory councillor takes home about 250. And if I have about 5 of them, how much is that? But if I'm to cut down the size of this salary, maybe by 50,000 for every political appointee, the 50,000 naira, the balance can go for services. But statutorily, I didn't make the law that says I should pay supervisory councillor so and so amount. He has to be paid because I have appointed him. So it is not the size of the people that really are serving, because we need people to participate, so we can add value to the real essence of providing service to the people. But the cost, the democracy we are experimenting here is too expensive. I'm being frank. And until we refuse to pretend, and until we tell ourselves the naked truth, this nation will see it. Just look at a governor or a president still going to a local government headquarters to commission borehole, or to commission a small thing that ought to have been done 20 years ago.
This is a nation that is 59 years old and old. Even if a child is, somebody is 59 years old, already a grandfather. He's on his way, you know, he has already collected his, what do you call it in the airport?
Boarding pass.
Boarding pass. The nation is...
But 59 is young, or don't...
59 for...
Don't say, don't say.
Well, sir, look at it. Yes. Therefore, I think this nation needs patriotism more than any other time we have in history. Until we have patriotic people, this nation will still remember what it is.
Honorable Adamu Candido, there are a number of points, Kiri, on the table now. I don't want to return immediately to Professor Samego on the KPSC syndrome. But the issue you just raised now, again, I borrow this phrase, the Parakbo associations. That's to say the various ethnic groups that ACF, Arewa Consultative Forum, Fenifere, and you also have them in Niger Delta and so forth. Distinguished Senator, in 1991, when we had the military administration of General Ibrahim Babangida, in creating 9 new states that brought the number to 30, later on Abacha made it 36, in that broadcast, he outlawed all these ethnic associations, which were proliferating even under the military. Today, we still see them. And some persons would argue that the resilience of these associations points to one fact that, look, we are still struggling to build a nation. With the primacy of politics, the political class itself appears to be at odds with the essence of nation building, the characteristics of which Professor Samego earlier highlighted. What, in your opinion, is required of the political class to take on the essence of nation building and indeed being the vanguard of nation building?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, it is not always the case that that a politician, will have to get a political power before he gets, economic power. We have example of Samadou Bello, Tafawa Balewa, Mbakwe, and the rest of them. They were poor. They had, the best of the administration, and yet they did not make any economic, power. Also, we very much, forget that we are a country with a lot of nationalities. So the formation of association, in my own opinion, is excellent, is very good, is fundamental. The only thing is that how you have put those association to. For instance, the Ohaneze, the Afenifere, Arewa Consultative Forum, there is nothing in those administration, in those associations, but how they are perceived and how they are put. That brings me to the issue of citizens' right and citizens' obligation. In this country, we talk about citizens have the right to be governed, but what is their own obligations? People do not put these citizens to their own obligations. Today, what we find out that, the encouragement of, what Babangida did by banning that, for me, it wasn't the right thing to do, because you cannot suppress, the urge to come together in various forms, because there is direct intervention in the rights and obligations of the citizens of this country. You cannot stop me from coming together with you, I'm a Fulani man. You cannot stop me, if I so wish, coming together, with a Hausa man, with a Kanuri man, with, that's why, when one formed those schools, unity schools, NYC and the rest of them, they were doing very, very well. They were doing fundamental unity of this country. People who went to, for instance, King's colleges, who went to all these schools, they see themselves as brothers and sisters today in this country, no matter how you look at it. So it is the proliferation of not recognizing the obligations of the citizens in this country. Coming to the recent things that are happening, the insecurity, insurgency, all this, it is the citizens who have not been made to understand their own obligations. And some people say it is the leadership that, will not make the citizens. But, sir, these things we say, things begin with us.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Are
you saying you're talking about citizens' obligation?
Yes.
Here we're also talking about the role of the political class, which has been referenced as leaders and so on and so forth in whatever sphere of endeavor, particularly the political class. What should be the obligation of the political leadership?
Fine. That's the issue I'm driving at. You see, a political leader is subservient to the citizens who voted them into power. If you have a citizenship or the citizens that do not recognize their own obligations, but they see the politician not also as a leader in terms of what he provides, but they see him as just what Professor has said, he goes there to amass wealth. Of course, there is a break in transmission between the citizens and the political leadership. So that is the issue that we have gone to campaign. You see, we have seen, what is happening. It is recognition of being a leader that is fundamental, because you are coming to provide service. In providing, the political leadership, a lot of things do happen. Everybody is not as bad as the other person, and everybody is not as good as the other person. So we must recognize it is not every politician that has gone to that level to amass wealth. It's not every, what do you call kabiyesi, that is also gone there to amass wealth. It has even been bastardized in this country. Royalty, has history. Today, you wake up in the morning, you take somebody because he was a minister, or because he was a commissioner, or because he was that, and then you make him a chief, a king in that area, which is contrary.
All right, Honorable, if you have time to return to you, we will do that. But let's go to Honorable Prestige. Your opening remarks, was so interesting, because as a member of the National Assembly, you came from a point where one wouldn't have believed you will, talking about absence of patriotism. Right, and following the question Kingsley asked, how can this be corrected? Well, you are the leaders at the moment. You are representing the people. So what should be done for you leaders to begin to hearken to the fact that, look, I am not there to amass wealth. I am here to help solve the societal problems and of course create an enabling environment for all sections of the people to cohabit. So please, what can we do?
I think this thing is an issue that has been on the public burner. And like I said, every average Nigerian knows that there is no patriotism on the part of our leaders, or most part of our leaders. And I think we have to start by, first of all, looking at our laws. I have been one of those who have been in the forefront of criticizing what we call the federal character principles, or this quota system. Those laws breed mediocrity at the altar of sacrificing meritocracy. When somebody talks about federal character, if you look at Nigeria as a nation, like I said earlier on, every appointment now, if you look at it, go to the federal character, go to all the ministries and parastatals of government, there are no, even the federal character is not there. What determines what position you will take is who is at the head. If the MD or the CG, maybe if it's all this paramilitary and all that, the CEO is from a particular area. During recruitment exercise and all that, what you find out is that he's going to recruit people from his own area. And look also the area of admission into Nigerian universities. You talk about educationally disadvantaged states. You talk about cut-off mark for a particular people from a particular area, attending the same university, coming out to be in the same labor market, coming to serve Nigeria. when you have already started developing this issue of lack of patriotism, this issue of division, from even the primary school. And I read from one of the articles that the politicians, started this by dividing this country into regions, communities, and all that. So what I think we should do, let's look at our laws and also reorientation. This National Orientation Agency should be made to do their jobs. They are not doing their jobs. We politicians capitalize on this in order to further divide this country. I am of the opinion that the agencies like National Orientation Agency should be made to do their job by even going to primary schools and secondary schools to preach nationalism.
All right.
We lack it totally. And again, abrogate some of our laws that tend to divide rather than uniting us.
Also, Prestige, thank you very much. Sorry, we're going to have to jump in here. You talked about a number of points. Last week, it was the issue of NOA also came up. But NOA suffers from a great deal of underfunding. I'm not the advocate because I made the point last week, and I'm sure Dr. Gaba Abari, the DG of NOA, will make his case at the National Assembly.
We've had him several times on this program. I will make that comment of being underfunded.
Yes,
we know what it used to be.
Yes. All right, but Professor Samego, now that we don't have enough time, but will the political class be fated to something dire if it fails, as it is currently the case, to engage in nation building?
Yeah, I mean, we're all sitting on a landmine. Anything can happen, you know. Precisely because we are building, you know, a society where citizens are frustrated because we are not living up to expectation. And I think I can do one or two things to change the narrative of this country in terms of strengthening the bond of national unity. We are a multi-ethnic society and we have agreed to be federal. Let us live the spirit of federalism. Let us, you know, radiate multiculturalism in public life. I am president, I am governor, I am making appointments. I know the diversity of the states that I govern. I know the diversity of the country that I serve. All I need to do is to ensure that in making appointments, it truly reflects the diversity of that country.
All right,
All I need to do is to ensure justice, fairness, and fair play.
All right, Professor Samego, political scientist. This has been a short one. I'm sure the subject matter will have to return to some point. Thanks a lot for being around. Yeah. Honorable Abdullah Damo Candido, Executive Chairman, AMAC, that's Abuja Municipal Area Council. Honorable Osi Chinedu, Prestige Member, House of Representatives, and Distinguished Senator Abubakar Yusuf, representing Bauchi Taraba Central Senatorial District. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. We're taking a short break, and when we return, we're dealing with sustainable management of the Niger Delta environment.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA headquarters in 11 Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the
Nancy. Buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
We are still watching Good Morning Nigeria and the network service of the NTA. Now let's go straight to the second topic for this morning's program, which is about sustainable management of Niger Delta environment. And now we have with us in the studio some stakeholders from the region. First, I would like to introduce Boniface Dimpe, a research fellow, Institute of Agriculture Research and Development, University of Port Harcourt. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
We also have Dr. Raphael Ayama Ofiong, HOD, Urban and Regional Planning, University of Calabar. We're also glad to have you on the program today.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, viewers.
All right.
All right. Now, two of the other guests with us, Dr. Raymond Ajang, he's of the Department of Zoology and Environmental Biology at the University of Calabar. Dr. Ajang is also a senior lecturer. Pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
And last but not the least, would like to welcome Mark William Kingdom Nabura. He's of the Department of Estate Management at the Kensarowa Polytechnic, Bori in Rivers State. Gentlemen, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I mean, the issue is sustainable management of the Niger Delta environment. There are some notorious facts that are out there about the Niger Delta. But tell us something. How challenged is the environment in the Niger Delta today?
Yeah, thank you. If you look at the Niger Delta environment today, it's filled with a lot of myriad of ecological and climatic problems. Take, for instance, the issue of siltation and sedimentation of the water channels, the issues that borders on Niper palms. Of course, that Niper palms is even one of the most dangerous ecological problems that we are facing today. That, in fact, both the government, researchers, nobody really giving attention towards that, because its dangerous effect is that it affects the mangrove swamps. And if you look at the mangroves, this is the mainstay of seafood. This is where the fish spawns and a whole lot of activities, and it encourages artisanal fisheries. Then another problem there is the issue of water hyacinth. In fact, let me look at them from three prongs: the water hyacinth, the arum lily, and then the water lettuce. Of course, people are now looking down on the arum lily, trying to lay emphasis more on water hyacinth, but three of them move together. They are taking over our waterways, they are discouraging fishing, they are killing other species because of their impact on the water bodies, coupled with the fact that the area is nutrient rich. Then the issues of coastal erosion is yet another very, very serious problem. Our shores are being washed away, then flooding, and I mean, there are so much. If you also go beyond the physical and ecological setting, you can also talk about the other aspect of anthropogenic problems, like the issue of the illegal mining, bunkering, that is leading to maybe refining of petroleum products. At the end of the day, the customs and, let me call it JTF, gets into, arresting these people. What do they do with it? You blow up the tanks. Where are you emptying the fuel into? I mean, if you look at that, that is also leading to the issue of the soot problem again. Facing soot problem seriously. It's now expanding into beyond Rivers State Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, and all of that. And the people around this region in the Niger Delta are highly impoverished people, depending solely on the environment to make sure that things work. But then now, as it were, what's really, really going on? Who's really, really paying much attention about all of these things? Today, accessing our waterways is a problem because the arum lily, the water hyacinth have taken over the whole area. Seas are becoming more shallow. Yeah, we read on papers about the desilting in a few areas. I mean, how are they going about the desilting? Who's involved? And do we have enough resources? What are the consultants doing? Or the contractors doing? Do we really have lead consultants
all right.
who deal with these issues?
Okay, Dr. Fiong, thanks a lot. Kirian, yeah.
Yes, let's go to Makuliam Kingdom Nabura. Let's get your own view of the current situation in Niger Delta. Of course, we all know that the issue of environmental management in Niger Delta cannot be overstated, because of what has transpired in that region over the years due to oil exploration and exploitation. Now, what is the current situation where you're coming from?
Thank you very much. If you look at the Niger Delta, you will understand that it is a region that harbors a lot of persons. The people of the Niger Delta are into agriculture, we go to fishing, but since the incursion of the multinationals in the Niger Delta, when oil was discovered, we discovered that also that the oil had already spilled, affecting the land, affecting the water, and sometimes it's affecting the air. And you all know that the land, the water, and the air is the life entirely we have. And if these things are destroyed, in fact, there will be no prospects for the Niger Deltans. Today we are talking about the seaways. I mean, that is not the only problem. The water hyacinth has invaded the entire place. We look at the issue of waste management. We look at the soot. These are serious problems that is ravaging the Niger Delta region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kingdom Nabura. Let's bring in now Dr. Raymond Ajang, who is of zoo and environmental biology. As I said, the environmental facts about the Niger Delta are somewhat notorious. But when you see still pictures with television footage of life in most parts of the Niger Delta, the first question that comes to you is, what is left of the environment in terms of flora and fauna, and therefore how do people survive in the meantime, and what might be the consequences going forward?
Thank you very much. The Niger Delta area is an area that, have suffered so much deprivation, and so much attention has not been given to that. But then you see that this problem of water hyacinth needs to be tackled seriously, because one, you have the aquatic organisms in that area which are affected as a result of water hyacinth. The fishes, in fact, other human activities that takes place there are being affected. First, you have like transportation, then you have like diseases being caused by this, and then you also have the problem of flooding. And then, if you look at it critically, you discover that this area, if not given serious attention, the problem is it may escalate beyond what we are thinking. And we are here basically because people from the area cried to us as citizens of the Niger Delta, and we felt that we should look at this and see how the government can look into it. And we felt that government, looking into this matter, they have been trying anyway. The Minister for Niger Delta, the NDDC, they have been doing their best. But I think more should be done, because already contracts have been awarded. But they need a lead consultant who will do this work properly. The lead consultant will have to supervise these other people that the contract is being awarded to. Also, we have to take into consideration the fact that these people are very poor people who don't have enough. But in the process, if you say, look, this contract should be awarded to people who have money, or people who can do this work, but you need, of course, it's not easy for them, because you need people, now it is the rich people alone who will be concerned about the contract. And then the people who are in the low cadre, how will they handle this situation? So you need people who are now to help these other young people. You have to make sure that they provide for them, they enable them to start the contract. Though we know that the Minister of the Niger Delta is a very good man. I don't know him, but I feel that he has been doing enough from what we heard when he was the governor of Akwa Ibom State. He performed very well, and I think if he can translate that to the Niger Delta, it will help a lot.
Okay, thank you. You see, what really bothers me, and perhaps many Nigerians, is the fact certain provisions have been made for Nigeria Delta over the years. You mentioned NTDC. Now, ministry has also been created for Nigeria Delta. If you recall, we had the former Minister of State Environment, who is a part of the committee, has overseen the clearing of Ogoni area, who is now the Emir of Nasarawa. Right, and he made very valid points with respect to the fact that you need qualified professionals to do this. It's not something you just give to any contractor to do. And my mind also goes to the fact that we also have this 30% derivation given to Niger Delta State. Water Hyacinth, for instance, is a plant. Yes. Why can the state also do something about water hyacinth, which is also, water hyacinth can as well be used for other productive, but of course, if it's studying zoology, you are a zoologist, you understand that water hyacinth is not useless, totally useless. It can also be converted to something else. So I want to ask this question to Boniface Dumpe, who's a research fellow. Now, I am satisfied with what has gone to Niger Delta with respect to 30% reservation, NTDC, Ministry of Niger Delta, that have existed over the years. Yet, we're still having this issue of environmental degradation, especially water hyacinth, which for me may be handled by state or by states.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, you have made the point that the environmental challenges of the Niger Delta has been an intractable problem. For most people, people just talk about the oil and the present day. People have forgotten that even before the advent of the oil resources, the Niger Delta was described as oil rivers because it was mainly, an area which was known for palm oil production. In fact, even past historical times, there were times that it was called the British Oil Protectorate. And the Niger Delta is a haven for bioresources, for biodiversity, so that, yes, some provisions have been made in terms of the 10% derivation and all of that. But the enormity of the problem in the Niger Delta just means that the resources are not sufficient. In fact, if you will recall, there was a time, I think it was 2004, when one of the National Political Conference was convened in Nigeria. And the Niger Delta delegation walked out of that conference. And what was the contention? I think they were advocating that the derivation should be increased to 25% for a start. At that time, it was significant that the rest of Nigeria, the rest of the zone of the country agreed to a marginal increase from 13% to 18%. But the surprise is that why didn't the government go ahead to make that implementation? The point we are making is that the aspect of oil degradation, the impact of the oil industry for which Nigeria relies on, for its development. So, come to look at it. If the Niger Delta area is providing the resources to fuel the economy and development of Nigeria, should the Niger Delta be isolated? Now, the point of the 30% derivation, yes, is on, but then the communities have been alienated completely.
What about NDDC?
NDDC. And that is what we're saying. It is NDDC that have also tried to focus a little. For example, this water hyacinth. Some of the projects, the contracts that are awarded, it is not certain that the people of the Niger Delta are able to benefit. For example, there is this principle, the lack of mobilization. And you will recall that from the very beginning, even from the Henry Whitling report, the description of the Niger Delta was that it is an area that is backward, poor, and neglected. That description still fits the Niger Delta till today. And then you have a policy. If you are given contracts, you don't mobilize the contractor. Assuming you find a situation where there are competent and qualified contractors, for example, like the water hyacinth clearing, because this is about the environment of the people. You understand? The people relate to the environment. If you know of the impact, the areas that have been spared by oil spills. In the Ogoni area, yes, we commend the government because, after a long time, the UNEP report that validated some of the agitations of the people. And if you even recall, you will see that there was no compensation paid. People, the crisis that the agitation generated, claimed a whole generation of leaders from that area. So that even at this time, when you're doing environmental restoration, in fact, that is why we think that the Niger Delta Development Commission and the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs should be further empowered, because this present government have given a ray of hope to the people of the Niger Delta that perhaps we are now in the era of environmental restoration. So while the cleanup is going on in Ogoniland, we think that there should be a policy that ensures people of the area also benefit.
I'm wondering, Boniface Dumpe and indeed the other guests, what we're talking about is sustainable management of the Niger Delta environment. Now, the point has been made that the takeoff of the cleanup of Ogoniland is commendable, but Ogoniland doesn't represent all of the Niger Delta. What framework is currently available for the sustainable management of the Niger Delta environment? Who are those that have the responsibility for managing the environment? I mean, I can clearly answer that and say, oil companies ought to have a responsibility. But my colleague also raised the question, what will be the role of the state governments? What will be the role of special intervention agencies like NDDC and others? What do we know at the moment about the environmental management of the Niger Delta?
Well, like you see, yes, there are some sort of a duplicity of agencies that are responsible. Duplication, yes. And we must say that, yes, both the government has tried a lot through the intervention agency because the resources are significant, although not adequate. Okay, the state governments are also trying, but the point there is that the framework needs to be strengthened in the sense that the local community people, well, it would be best for them to also have a leeway to participate. You understand? Because when you talk about the environmental challenge, the water hyacinth we're talking about completely annihilates the environment. You see that the significance of the ecosystem for the Niger Delta people, they are largely dependent on the environment. Okay, fishing, farming, and you see, if you want to characterize the environment of the Niger Delta, you will see that mostly areas are freshwater swamps, the mangrove forests. The mangrove forests have been now completely replaced by the Nipa palm. And this mangrove forest, it has this kind of special ecosystem that encourages the breeding of fishes. The communities, in fact, for oil pollution and the decimation, the destruction of the mangrove forest. People of this community are essentially, they are reliant on the environment, resources that are produced from there. So the point that is being made is that these invasive species, the Nipa palm destroying the mangrove forest and the water hyacinth now completely annihilating the freshwater swamps. So, I mean...
you have done a good explanation of the situation.
Yes.
But what worries many Nigerians is the fact that intervention mechanisms have been put in place for Niger Delta over the years. When I talk about NDDC, it is directly involved in the development of Niger Delta. And we have had issues with NDDC over the years as well, in terms of management, in terms of administration, in terms of what impact is it making.
President Buhari said that there should be there should be an audit of their accounts. Before NDDC, was a failure.
Exactly. Yes. And you recall that you have also acknowledged that the present administration has done so well in trying to, rebuild the environment of Niger Delta, if you like. So let me go to HOD. I am Ofiong. Right. Now, all that being said, your people sent you here. I want to believe that because here I actually mentioned that. Yeah, people sent you here. Yes, exactly. Now, what do you do to those who are involved in oil, bunker refining, illegal refining of oil? Because of course, it has its residue. It has a lot of which also destroys the environment. What are you doing about it? What are you people doing about the state governments coming together to say, look, water hyacinth is not very, very huge in terms of evacuating it from the place it is. It is not very huge. So must everything come from federal government? Let's hear from you.
Thank you once again. You see, let me start from the issues that borders on illegal bunkering and refining. When these people are being caught, when our security agencies, get these people, what do we do with it? Instead of destroying it or maybe pushing it back into the ecosystem, we can now take it back to the professionals, like those who are involved in refining, see how it can be purified, see how it can be made, to be more useful to us. Again, the issue of sustaining the environment of the Niger Delta. Like we rightly mentioned, NDDC, that interventions have been put in place over time. And that question is that these monies that have been sent to NDDC, is it enough? Is it what is actually budgeted? Has it been released completely? who is keeping what? And I want to thank God for President Buhari for at least calling for a probe over time now that we should look at all of this. And in fact, when this probe or this forensic auditing takes place, we are going to see what was released, what was budgeted for, I mean, what was it used for, and all of that. Again, the issue of research has been reduced or relegated to the background. Now, when you're talking about managing, for instance, environmental problems, just award contracts. Contractors jump into the field without carrying out proper, research. And having looked at the environment of the Niger Delta, the peculiarity in terms of terrain, in terms of climate, in terms of ecological setting, if you carry out proper research and then have a stakeholders engagement, workshop or something which will further close up the gaps, will go a long way to solve these problems. Yeah, for me, it's not enough. It's not enough to say we are releasing monies. We are doing, what are we doing about that?
Do you think that state governments in Niger Delta region can come together to say, look, let's do this.
Sure.
Let's start from somewhere.
Sure.
Is there a possibility?
Now, yes, there's every possibility. I think why they are sitting on the other side of the fence is that the other stakeholders, there's no synergy between the various ministries. Take, for instance, Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, NDDC, and the rest. They should come and sit down with the governor, make them to understand that it is also their responsibility to deal with these issues. Or and leaving it for Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, leaving it for NDDC and all that. And surely, until when the governors begin to get involved, until when the local government chairman begin to get involved, we'll go a long way to deal with it, because it will finally trickle down to the man at the bottom, using the bottom-up approach.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ofong. Now, Dr. Raymond Ajang, now we're talking about the operative framework for the management of the environment. He just ticked off a number of MDAs that ordinarily should be involved: Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, and so on and so forth, state governments. I would also like to, in this case, add, let's say, the Ministry of Transport, because you have the inland waterways. But let's face it, my colleague Kirian has been saying water hyacinth isn't a big deal anymore anywhere in the world. It raised the issue of water lettuce and arum lily and all of that. Why has it been allowed to proliferate that is now becoming another environmental challenge of its own, other than what we know typically of, say, oil pollution and oil production related activities? What is the big deal in harvesting water hyacinth and converting it into industrial use?
Yeah, but I won't agree with the fact that water hyacinth is not a big deal. It's a big deal because now these are plants that grow very fast and they are multiplying. And if you check through the Niger Delta, we are talking about the 9 states, but then it goes beyond the 9 states, because we are talking about 20 states or more. Even the Federal Capital Territory here, you have the water hyacinth all over. Now, the water hyacinth, it can be used for other purposes. But then, we are looking at the major challenges of this water hyacinth to the Niger Delta, because in terms of transportation, it can even affect the production of electricity. Because by the time it colonizes the whole water system, it can affect, as well, lead to erosion and flooding. So therefore, the best way to take care of this is to make sure that you award this contract to lead consultant who will know how to handle this project, supervise the other contractors that will be awarded.
Is the issue, let's get this clear, is the issue a quarrel with the current contracting system that doesn't appear, from what you have said, to have a linkage with research findings, and therefore what needs to be done properly? If it is that, whom are you quarreling with? Which agency are you quarreling with in this regard?
No, so definitely we are not quarreling with any agency, but we are suggesting, that these agencies should be properly guided, so that whatever they are doing should make sure that it is done properly well. Now, if you talk of NDDC, they are doing their best. If you talk of the Ministry of Niger Delta, they are doing their best. But we are commending that, look, the Niger Delta should be taken care of because of the effect of this water hyacinth. And it's not properly taken care of. the effect will be enormous, and we cannot control it when it gets to that stage.
I think we're all concerned about this.
Sorry, let me just add this. Why it is a big deal? It's a big deal because the issue of water hyacinth, for instance, is a transboundary pollution issue. Of course, when it was first discovered in 1984 around the Badagry region, it came away from Benin Republic. It's a subtropical plant and tropical plant, but nobody gave it attention. People took it for granted. Now and again, even if you want to clean up the Niger Delta, for instance, the United States, what happens to other states?
The thing is that
it's a transboundary problem.
Even when you clean up water hyacinth, it comes back again. No, but you continue doing that. You know, it's not something that you just clear up and it goes like that. It continues to go. And when you come in the 80s, you pointed out, it was a huge issue then. But some research, have shown that look, it's something that can be dealt. It can even be converted into something else, something positive. Let me come to Mr. Nabora. Now, what is the key issue? I will turn to round off this segment. What are you people asking for? And who are you directing this to? Federal government is already doing something about this. I raised the issue of the NDDC, the Ministry of Niger Delta, and as well as the governors of that region. Who are you really talking to this morning?
Thank you so much. I'm talking to the people of Niger Delta. I'm talking to the federal government. I'm talking to the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. I'm also talking to NDDC. Actually, we know that what they have been doing is okay. They have tried their best, but we needed them to do more because the issue of the water hyacinth is so severe that if you allow it, it can take over the entire water surface or water surfaces in the Niger Delta. And so if urgent attention is not given, it's going to be so terrible. Right now, we understand that some contracts had been awarded. Jobs are going on. Right now.
On the water hyacinth?
Yes. But what we are saying is that what they do is to excavate the water hyacinth from the water surface or from the water bodies to the land without any proper conversion. And you look at the terrain of the Niger Delta, it's a low-lying region. And when rain falls, what happens? Those ones that are taken from the water are already washed back. And the water hyacinth keeps growing. So what we are talking about is that when it has been done from the surface of the water, let there be a lead consultant. Because if we are talking about the benefits or the uses of water hyacinth, that cannot be feasible until a perfect hand is on it. Professionally.
Boniface.
So I think it is about a question of proper coordination. The efforts of the NDDC, the Niger Delta Ministry, even the oil companies that carry out social responsibility functions. I think there is a key problem of coordination, and the right appropriate ministry to handle this, maybe the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. And it is not true that the water hyacinth is a problem that you just wish. Even in civilized, developed countries like in the US, the port of Stockton in California, they continue to clear this because it interferes with the channel for the ships that tries to approach the harbor. So it is about the implementation framework. Maybe previously, yes, the NDDC have always awarded some contracts, and I think this is one area where community people have a leeway or a window to participate, because there is no way you can undertake and clear this problem without getting them involved because about their environment. So it is about strengthening the coordination mechanism at the level of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. And again, it is not about just looking at figures. People talk about some billions of naira awarded for contracts, but you will look at what you're talking about is in the entire 9 states, and then the waterways. There are about 3,000 communities in the Niger Delta. And most of these communities, they may be small, but they are so much reliant on the water bodies surrounding them. And because of the prolific growth of water hyacinth, as you remove them, they are floating plants, so that with the wind, with the tides, they come in and go. So the hands of the Niger Delta, that is the ministry, proper coordination should come, and a better implementation framework. Like we said, perhaps it is because those who carry out these contracts don't even understand. a mechanism that, for example, you have a lead consultant to lead the process that will even build capacity of local people to proper understand the way these plans affect their environment and how they can manage it on a sustainable basis.
We're talking about coordination. Who does the coordination?
Yes.
We have Governors Forum, United Delta Governors Forum. Where does this coordination begin?
No, I think that the proper place for the coordination to be handled, because if you look at it, yes, even the oil companies, each of them, they go in and carry out whatever functions they think they want to do. The NDDC is supposed to be focused on the community. So at this time, I think that there will be a lot of good if you have the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs coordinating, taking the function, because that can harness. You see, if it were possible to map the area of the Niger Delta, the areas where the infestation is very serious, and then you can then coordinate, say this is where the intervention is starting from, and monitoring and evaluation can then assess from time to time what areas have been cleared and areas that focus will still have to be given.
What is available at the moment for the conversion of water hyacinth or water lettuce or arum lily once they have been cleared from the channels that they are clogging at the moment? Or is it just a matter of, I'm sure what's available?
Yeah, actually, you see, if the proper thing is being done, just like Boniface said, if we get this water hyacinth out, possibly shred that, adopting the best practices in terms of, the technology. If we shred them or compress them, we can convert them to biogas. We can convert them to biofertilizers. We can convert them to, pulpwood. And again, if the people begin to see the value having, taken through the stakeholders forum, they will even be helping the government to, fight it out. Because if they see the need for it, they will go for it and even help in making good money out of it. When you have people coming to buy, like today, we are trying to move from, fossil fuel now to sustainable green energy. So I think that if the proper thing is being done, especially Minister of Niger Delta, which I don't really have any doubt about the current minister, because he had shown himself as a governor before now, and he's also good in budgeting and all. I think that if it's done, we convert this to, look at Aba, for instance, where they are making papers, pulpwood and pulp papers, and go in there, get this water, get these stakeholders to be involved, compress them into parcels or packs, and then people begin to make use of it. So as it comes in every year in, year out, because like the dry season will come in now, the seeds, those that couldn't germinate, will begin to come up. So the local people will look out for it, begin to work, to see how they can make use of it, following the lead consultant, who will now further train them in terms of capacity building on how to use these things and then convert them.
Why do you think that those who have awarded contracts for the handling of the current menace of water hyacinth did not appear to have considered experts rather than contractors, in leading this process?
Yeah, because, let me come there. I think once these things were awarded directly to these contractors, now the boys, at times, they don't even clear the hyacinth properly. They just have portion and abandon the job there, and then put it by the side. But then, after a short while, they goes back. But now, if you give to lead consultant, those ones have the power to now make sure that they monitor the boys. Those things are properly cleared.
My question is, why were lead consultants not engaged at the initial point of the award of the contracts?
Yeah.
We are saying that because this is what happened. They were not engaged.
Why?
If you're asking why, it's as if they are part of the people who are on the contract. But I think what should be considered is the fact that, look, ab initio, nobody considers the value addition of water hyacinth. Nobody, it was not considered at all in the first instance. So what we're concerned about is about clearing it, evacuating it, and dumping it somewhere. Not to.
Were you on the tennis ball?
And again, we are not even staff of the NDDC and Ministry of Niger Delta, so it's strictly administrative issue before now.
The end of the show this morning. We'd like to thank all of you for being here this morning. You are representing your people, and it's an exercise, what taking. I'd like to thank you people at the moment. Boniface Dumpe, Research Fellow, Institute of Agriculture, Research and Development, University of Port Harcourt. It's been wonderful talking to you this morning.
Thank you.
Dr. Raphael Ayama Ofiong, HUD, Urban and Regional Planning, University of Calabar. We appreciate your contribution.
Thank you.
And Dr. Ajang Raymond of the Department of Zoology and Environmental Biology, University of Calabar. We thank you for also being here.
Thank you.
Of course, you should be involved in this research issue. Then, Mr. William Kingdom Nabura, of course, he's of the Kensal-Wiwa Polytechnic, Bori River State. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. But, Presenter, before we leave, I want you to take a look at the severity.
Just sit down.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Of the problem.
That will be for another day. He's showing the water hyacinth. Actually, it's devastating. It's all about the place. Is the world over? It's everywhere across the globe. But what matters is that we have to clear them. If they return, we continue clearing. That's how it's been handled all over the world. And on that note, Kingsley?
Yeah, that's right. It forms a carpet. There was a time, I mean, in the 80s when it manifested around the wharf in Lagos. It was an emergency wharf on Marina. All right, so it's on that note, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Nigeria today. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kyrian. You might have a great day.